jobs, bound by what we make, bound by our homes. Narrow thing. Very narrow. We have no vision, and it's constricted our vision. And then when those things are removed, you can tell it where your allegiance and loyalty to. Sometimes a layoff will let you know that your job is not necessarily your provider. No, let me move on. Don't hit the job, the almighty dollar. I'm telling you. So Abraham, here you go. Abraham has been asked to separate himself from all things in his life. He was first told to separate it from Babylon. He had to leave that place. Then he was told to leave Egypt. He had to leave that place. Told him to leave his family. He had to leave that place. He was told to separate himself from his wealth. That's why he didn't take anything from Sodom. Remember that? But he was willing to separate himself from that. He was not a man that sought anything. His whole life was life of separation. That's why I use this as a prototypical viewpoint for us, as a touchstone for us to realize why I want to use his picture as a precursor to what I'm going to talk about, because I'm not done on migration. I have some better examples, but I wanted to give you, I always proclaim, then I explain. I proclaim in picture, then I explain in principle. That's what teachers do, right? His whole life was based on separation. Our life is based on what we would give up, what we would separate from. I know. There's some things, some people you have to separate from. Some situations you have to separate from. Some things you have to get away from. You can come out from among them and be ye. I know that's not comfortable in the contemporary church, especially in the age of grace. God won't ask you for that. I'm here to tell you, yes, he will. So there are certain things he will ask from you. How many of you are willing to get rid of something that your flesh produced? There's some things that you brought up, or you brought to fruition. There are certain things that we produce that we expect God to honor them. That's idolatry. I'm going to say that again because it didn't go over well. There are things in our life that we came up with. There's conclusions and decisions we made, and we want God to honor it. We want to bring it to God, but that is idolatry. We need God's instruction. We have to follow the conviction of our hearts. But see, if our heart don't have convictions, if I don't have values, core values bring you conviction. Reading the Bible ain't going to give you no conviction, y'all. I just want to let you know that. Hello? Am I in the right building? Yeah. You can study the Bible. I know people got Bible sense that don't have any conviction. That they are still walking independent of God's expectations. Got to get to the point to understand that God wants what belongs to him. Yes. And I'm here to tell you, he wants what belongs to him. Remember I said this before. So he had to sacrifice the thing he loved. The thing that he spent time with. The thing that he raised. Talking about his son. He ain't asking us for our kids. He's asking for our loyalty. What are you attached to? I remember I gave a word to somebody regarding a relationship, and they thought I was trying to destroy the relationship. No. How do you know when we stand before God, I'm not going with prophet. Hopefully I don't. We need her to stay behind. But even if we go together, we still going to go before God independently. This is a solo flight. You can't take everybody with you. As much as you love him. It's between you and God. Lord help us all. People just ain't got the memo yet. You know. See, I know he knew a couple of things, and the things we got to know. Sacrifice. He understood sacrifice, and he understood submission. We haven't understood that economy. Sacrifice is your willingness to give up what you lived a whole lifetime to keep. Wow. You don't know what I would do to get this. Anybody? Yeah. See, that's kingdom. See, church folks don't hear that.
That's right.
Kingdom know that there's things that you lived a whole lifetime to accomplish that God can ask for.
Yes.
And his only hope is he understands your heart is not in the right place. That's why he's asking. Because it's about love. Anything that interrupts you and God, he's going to ask for. He is a jealous God. He's not going to give his glory to anything other than himself. Please listen, folks. That's why you got to decide and get to a place of detox and say, God, I only want what you have for my life. Are you willing to give up what you lived a whole lifetime to keep? You know, and I thought when I wrote that out, I said, dang, what did God tell me he wants the ministry? Oh, he can. That's one of the reasons why I made up my mind some years ago. That I want to be in a position that if it does come to that point, I'll be in a good place. So I made up in my mind. There's some things I've done for the last 20 years. That if that were to happen, I can get out of the way. Without him having to remove me. And some people had, I'm telling you, some people got removed. They didn't leave, he just said, well, time to go. He said, let me take them out, they're going to blow something up. They're messing everything up. And God, it's God's assignment. Right? So we got to be willing to give up what we've lived a whole lifetime to keep. There's some things we lived a whole lifetime to keep. Some of us lived a whole lifetime to be financially free. Come on now, there's some things certain burdens we don't have to carry. I hope y'all hear me. Then he understood. See, because when you're in true submission and you understand that God is the Lord of your life, you have the ability to walk away from something you wanted because God told you it's not time.
Yes.
There's some things you got to be willing to walk away from because it's not your time. I'm almost done. Come on up. We're going to close this out. I got 10 minutes. I hope y'all getting this. Yeah. See, you can say what you want to out of your mouth. You can say, yeah, Lord, I give it all. I give myself away. Remember the song came out? Who was that? Yeah, and all the church loved it for a season, didn't we? I give myself away. And back down on the inside of you holding something back. It just sounded good in the song. You snotted and you cried. But you walked around like Ananias and Sapphira. When everybody was giving everything up, you was holding something back. That's what happened to Ananias and Sapphira. That same thing that happened to Achan. When they was going to possess land, he kept something back in his tent. We always going to hold something back. Anything you're not willing to give God for jurisdiction, you eventually will hold something back. I don't care if it's a relationship. So Abraham knew it. He knew it, man. He had something on the inside of him. That's why he made the stuff. That's why he did make a statement. I and the land is going to return. Because he understood that. You see, because ultimately your conviction can only be known through your commitments. People tell me I'm committed to this church, but I don't see what? You ain't got no convictions. When you respond to whatever's being said in the house, lets you know. When we meet, we all meet. We don't pick and choose when to meet. Because then it's not a conviction. Tell your neighbor, it's time not to hold back.
It's time not to hold back.
This is the season that we gotta see. We've been stripped for 2.5 years. And the pandemic told us what we could offer God. Now you're free. What are you going to give God? Are you going to make up your mind? I'm not going to hold back from God anymore. That everything that I have in my hands, everything that I have in my sphere, in my realm, belongs to God. You got to get there. Something that Bishop Miller said this, Tony Miller. Going to be the word. He said, submission is only a theory until it costs you something. I'm submitted to this church. Oh, it's going to cost you something. As long as your desire for your own way is greater than your desire for obedience, your life will be limited. So we wrestle with the scriptures to our own destruction because we're looking for a safe place in our disobedience. Anything, let me tell you something. There's no safe place in your disobedience. All right, I'm almost done. I got... let me go on. I'm going to go all the way down. I had 3 others, but I'm going to get to... God made a statement. The angel made a statement to... God made a statement to Abraham and said, now I know that you obey me. And the reason why was because he was willing to worship God by sacrificing his promise. The first time that worship showed up in scriptures is through an act of obedience. Worship was nowhere in scriptures. So this was what I call the law of first principles. So if it was a sign, obedience is a sign of worship, music is not a sign of worship. Right. Having tubas and clarinets and having a bass, that is not worship. Having them open in worship, that is not pure worship. It's a form of worship. Because Judah goes first. It's a form of praise, but worship from God's perspective, worship from his perspective is what? Obedience. See, you can obey God when you understand he never asks anything from your life that he's not willing to. See, look, God never asks anything from your life that he's not willing to replace. That's when you understand worship. That's when real worship comes out of complete surrender. Is that I know what God asked for me, he's willing to replace. That's why he told him, no man leaving father, mother, lands, and all those different things will not receive it 100-fold. You gotta tell you myself, God is he's bigger than my resources. God is my source. My resource is not my source. It's It can be replenished anytime. But my loyalty to the source determines the quality of my resources. And all of that comes out of complete obedience and submission to God. Because ultimately, obedience is the ultimate form of submission.